Welcome to another episode of Bytes with Suhani Singhal. One concept which I really want to highlight is the importance of building confidence in a male-dominated field. Sometimes it may seem hard to get inspiration, confidence, and motivation, but we need to learn how to not be discouraged by these factors. That's why I'm here today to interview Leslie Rogers and learn about her ability to build confidence in this male-dominated field at YouTube as a UX engineer. Leslie grew up in the Bay Area, and ever since she was young, she was interested in many subjects, including physics and math. She majored in symbolic systems, computer science, and human-computer interaction at Stanford University, and went on to work at multiple tech companies, including Microsoft and YouTube. Initially, she worked at Microsoft as a software developer engineer, developing important products such as a Bing News app. Currently at YouTube, she is a UX engineer, helping make the site more accessible to users through multiple means. Leslie has been working in the tech industry for almost 8 years now, as she continues to develop her skills and create products which are helping solve real-world problems and impact the world. Today I'm sitting down with Leslie to share her inspirational journey to computer science with girls all over the world. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today and being a part of this video series. I'm really excited to learn about your journey towards YouTube and how you got to where you are today.
Thanks, I'm excited to talk with you.
So let's start off by talking about your childhood a little bit and your journey through school, just because our audience is predominantly young girls and girls who are in middle school and high school. So what were your interests at an early age? Were you interested in computer science and technology or something else?
I wasn't that aware of computer science. My parents actually were in the computer science industry, but we didn't have any classes for it in high school or middle school. I'd say my favorite classes in high school were math and physics, so sort of that techie side.
Right.
But I also liked music, languages, so I think computer science ended up being a good mix of like the kind of logical techie with also the creative side.
Definitely. And I think one aspect which is really important is having role models, especially female role models for girls, because it's nice to see that, seeing a woman do something and knowing that you can do it one day too. Mm-hmm. So did you have any female role models when you were in high school or in college even who kind of helped you pursue a field in computer science?
Yeah, so as I said, in high school, computer science wasn't really on my radar, but I did have some great math teachers who were women, so that always gave me the idea that a woman could be successful in the STEM fields.
Right.
In college, I think the third computer science class that I took was kind of known as the weed out class. Like, it's so hard that we'll weed people out if they're not really into it.
Yeah.
That was called CS 107, and that teacher was a woman. So just knowing that kind of the hardest class I'd ever taken at that point was taught by a woman.
Yeah.
Was really nice. I know her, she would hold office hours and encourage people to come in and ask her questions, and that was known for, you could just go and like break down and cry and say like, I'm having such a hard time, I'm so frustrated. And maybe that's easier because she's a woman, like saying it's okay to show the emotions and vulnerability, that this is hard for you, and that's normal and we'll get through it together. So yeah, I would say that she would be a good example of that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good example of a role model. Is there a piece of advice which maybe you could share with us that you kind of got from her, or maybe she gave you, which you think that you still use to this day?
Yeah, I think just the idea that like anyone can do this. You can work your way through it. I think it can be overwhelming, especially when you start maybe later on, like in college in computer science, and it feels like all these other guys in your class have been coding their own video games for the past 10 years, and how will I ever catch up to them?
Yeah.
But you don't have to. You can just do your own path, and that you can be perfectly successful.
That's really good advice. I think a lot of girls will take that to heart just because they might be in the same situation which you were in, kind of thinking like, oh, all these boys have already been coding for so long, how am I going to catch up? But I think just looking at your story and seeing like you definitely can catch up and you're going to be really successful is really important.
Right, and like that they maybe don't want to show weakness, and they always want to brag about like, oh, that's so easy. I already knew that. I already know that language. No problem. And no, it's okay that you don't know it.
Yeah.
And it's okay that it's hard, but you will learn it.
Right. That's really. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really good to know. And I think we kind of touched on this earlier when you talked about Stanford. But I noticed that you majored in symbolic systems and human-computer interaction. And so for those who don't really know what that major is, can you talk to us a little bit about what that major is and why you decided to pursue that?
Yeah, it's maybe similar to a cognitive science major somewhere else. I think symbolic systems itself is maybe only at Stanford. It's classes mainly in linguistics, psychology, philosophy, and computer science.
Okay.
So I probably took the equivalent of a computer science minor in terms of how many computer science classes I took.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to college and I was like, I want to try something new. There's hundreds of classes here. Let me just dive into something I don't know anything about. So I took a linguistics class because I'm really interested in languages. And then one of my classmates told me about this major. And so I thought that would be fun. Instead of studying one thing, you get to learn a lot of different interesting things. And then it turned out that from everything that I studied, computer science had a lot of job opportunities.
Right.
Direction to go in.
Do you think that this major kind of helped you in pursuing a field in computer science? Like, did you feel ready when you joined the workforce, or do you think that you had to like learn more?
Yeah. I mean, I felt ready enough to get a job, but also I didn't know anything about how to be a professional software engineer, like at all. My coding skills were definitely not there, but that was fine. Yeah, I think the major helps also. It depends exactly what you go into, but if you mix linguistics and computer science, you can talk about natural language processing, machine translation. If you mix psychology and computer science, you can talk about like user interfaces, what's going to be most intuitive for people, how do people think, and where on the screen are they going to want to click. And so I think mixing the disciplines is really helpful.
That's really good to know, because I think it also helps that you can kind of mix your passions and other things that you like to do with computer science to help.
I think it would have been overwhelming for me to try to take just a computer science major. It would just been so many computer science classes, and that didn't work for me personally at the time.
So while you're transitioning to the workforce, what kind of obstacles did you face, and how are you able to overcome them? For an example, do you notice that there were a lot of men and there weren't as many females, or were there other obstacles which you faced?
Yeah, so I'm definitely used to being the only woman in the room. Like at YouTube, I've been on the mobile web team for 5 years, and our team is anywhere from 3 to 6 team members, and I've never had another female on the team.
Wow.
Once we had a female intern, and she was great, but it's temporary. Yeah, the manager that I report up to has about 80 reports, and like a year ago we noticed about 5 of us were women, so we started doing regular lunches together.
That's nice.
Yeah, I've been in the room where, it's 30 men and me and maybe one other woman. Yeah, I would say I've been really lucky though. The men I've worked with have been great. I haven't faced any like major negative things. There have been some big negative things like in the press and in my company at Google. Someone released a memo a couple of years ago discussing whether women are like biologically less suited to this job. We had a walkout recently. Mainly because of like executives with bad behavior towards women getting fired and getting big exit packages, and people feeling really upset about that. So there have been big issues to discuss, and after that I've sat down with my male teammates and had some really nice discussions.
That's definitely important, yeah.
I'd say in terms of what I've faced, it's mainly sort of the microaggressions, the smaller things. People don't assume that you're an engineer first. I went to a career fair at Stanford, and I think I even had a badge that said UX engineer. I'm talking to the student, he asked me a couple logistics, what time does the internship start or whatever, and he's like, okay, is there an engineer I could talk to here?
Oh.
That's me.
That's you,
It would have been nice if you could have just said, are you an engineer, instead of assuming like, of course I'm just or not just a recruiter. Recruiter's a great job as well, but it's just, no one assumes you're the technical role.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of obstacles also, I would say my first internship, my first performance review really surprised me, because my boss said, okay, technically you're doing great, but we feel like you're not really fitting in, you're not like showing a lot of enthusiasm, we feel like you don't really like your role, which I did like it, but everyone else on my team was like a man in their like 40s and 50s. they would get together on Friday and drink whiskey in their office, and I don't know, I don't like whiskey. That's a stereotypically male drink, so I wouldn't participate in those social events, and so because of that, I was sort of seen as separate, or they didn't get, my interest. So that was sort of a wake-up call or a obstacle.
Yeah, that definitely is an obstacle, but I think how you're kind of able to overcome that and how you're still so confident in yourself and still so successful is something which a lot of girls strive to be. I mean, it's definitely on a smaller scale, but like even in computer science classes, which girls are taking now in high school, or different coding camps, they still are technically a minority, or there's less women or less girls than boys. So what advice would you give to be confident in yourself and just be successful and know that it's okay to be an only girl?
In terms of being confident, let's see, the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg came out when I was starting my career, and it had a chapter about a seat at the table that stuck with me, and I make sure that I actually physically sit at the table in meetings instead of in the chairs around the outside, just that I'm seen as more present.
That's a good idea,
Yeah, and you can follow up if something annoys you. Sometimes it's hard to say in the moment, but I had a coworker who was saying, when I interview people, I ask them what their outside projects are, and it's a red flag to me if they don't have any. And that sort of upset me because I was like, well, I didn't have any outside projects.
Yeah.
I wasn't one of these guys who's been coding video games his whole life. And
right.
And so then I just went to him later and said, hey, I think actually people who do other hobbies can bring a great diversity of experience and maybe make the product even better. And he's like, oh, actually, that's a good point. Thanks for putting it that way. And so if something rubs you the wrong way, you're upset about something, just, calmly pulling someone aside later and saying, oh, hey, maybe it bothers me that this person spoke over me. It bothers me that this happened, that happened.
It's definitely important to voice your opinions instead of shying away.
Yeah, because often it's a misunderstanding and if you just interpret it as this aggression, and then it will boil up inside of you. So communicating is good.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
So while you're transitioning from the software engineer role to your current role at YouTube as a UX engineer, how was that transition like? Would you say it was easy, or do you think it was difficult?
Yeah, so the UX role is interesting. It's still not totally defined. There's a couple hundred UX engineers in Google total. We have a conference every year where we get together, and I can hear what people are doing with the role, and there's a huge spectrum. So some people are more doing prototyping, so they're not actually creating products that users see. They're just creating ideas for what products might be and testing them out. I work completely on the production side, and everyone else in my team is just a standard software engineer. So most people wouldn't even necessarily know that my title is not software engineer.
Okay.
It does mean to me I work more on the front end, exactly what the users see. So in terms of YouTube, instead of how the video bytes are sent, I'm working more on what does the buttons around the video player look like, and how can we make our product best for the user. So yeah, I don't think it was too hard of or big of a transition.
I see. And I think you kind of touched on it before, but can you talk a little bit about what a UX engineer kind of does on a daily basis at work?
Right, so it's different for everyone. For me, I'm mainly just writing code. So a recent project I did was sort of redoing the whole mobile website for YouTube so that it looks more like the apps. Changing the color scheme, changing the navigation, adding your user avatar, things like that. And so I'm writing the code for that, I'm testing it, I'm monitoring. We're a very data-driven company, big on experiments. We'll just push something out to a small percentage of our users and monitor how it's doing, and are people clicking on what we want them to click? What's their behavior mean for how well this is doing? Reviewing other people's code. Probably go to 3 or 4 regular meetings a week, which I consider myself very lucky that I don't have to go to many meetings.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of cool to be a UX engineer just because you kind of get to see what you're making in front of you and how users are interacting with it and how it's affecting them as well. That's really cool. So I think another thing which a lot of girls want to know, and I think is a fun question as well, is what are some of the perks or benefits of working in the tech industry at some of the big companies like Microsoft and at YouTube?
Yeah, we're very lucky. It's sort of embarrassing or unfair. Other people are doing such good for the world and just making people watch videos, and I get so much. Yeah, I mean, financially we're paid really well. The benefits, all the insurance and everything it means a lot to be able to have the financial freedom to do everything I want in life. yeah, they take us traveling. We go to Tahoe annually. I've been to Las Vegas and LA and San Diego. YouTube especially, a lot of celebrities use YouTube, and so they're grateful for it. So they come to give back, and so we've had a lot of famous people play music, give classes, give talks. So we have, either YouTube celebrities or just general celebrities coming all the time. And then just all the time there's fun stuff, maybe we'll go down and then they're custom screen printing sweatshirts for us, or they want to change the snacks, and so there's like an array of 50 popcorns and chocolates, and you get to test them out and say which one you like, or they're giving out plants, so you pick your favorite succulent. I feel like I come home like once or twice a week from work, and I'm like, we did this fun thing today.
I think that's really good also, just so you can like build a good team and you kind of get like network with people and have fun at your company, so you kind of are looking forward to going to work.
Keeps you happy.
Right. And I think another big thing about work, which is important, is having work-life balance. Being able to take time for yourself at home, have a physical, mental health, but also do well at work and, finish your job effectively. So what are some of your hobbies outside of work, and how do you have a work-life balance?
Work-life balance is really important to me. My previous job, I felt like they were encroaching on my work-life balance, and that was a big part of why I left. Because there they would make us sometimes stay for dinner, sometimes they'd make us come in on the weekends. They actually made us do this on-call rotation where you would, for a whole week, you're on call 24 hours a day. So you'd get called at like 3 a.m. and you would have to debug why something was wrong with this app in Germany. And, I really was upset by that. And currently in my job now, I've never had to work when I didn't want to. Yes, about hobbies, I have a lot of hobbies. I love being active. I'm on a cross-country ski team. I go backpacking, biking, running, swimming. I'm really into crosswords. I recently wrote a crossword for the New York Times. I'm into construction, book club, wine club. So I have a lot of time for things outside of work.
That's really good. That's good. Like I mentioned, having that work-life balance and being able to take time for yourself is really important. So what do you think is the key challenge which women are facing today in computer science, and how do you think that we can help solve that problem?
I guess feeling like you are valued and seen and heard, like you can feel like a minority. The one thing to think about is it's very obvious that you're a minority if you're the only woman, but you don't know what everyone else is facing. Maybe someone else is the first in their family to go to college. Maybe someone else has a disability, maybe someone else is part of the LGBT community and no one else is. And so it's maybe not as big as you think it is that you're the only person.
I think that's important, like you said, like not just making it a bigger problem than it actually is, and kind of building that confidence like we talked about it before. So what advice would you give to girls who don't have a predominant female mentor currently, and how do you think that they can find one?
I work at YouTube, so I can recommend YouTube, right? There's a lot of people with great channels out there, so you can look for people producing content that you're interested in. Maybe, like for me, I had great math teachers that were women. Are there any other teachers at the school that you can look to? Your mentor doesn't have to be a woman. I've had great mentors that were men as well.
That's really good advice. So now I'd like to play a quick game called Bowl of Bytes. So we have a bowl of questions just to learn a little bit more about yourself. So you can pick 3, just pick one, and then you can read it, and then you can answer it as well.
All right. If a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be? Let's see. I'll say comedy. I like lighthearted, not a lot of serious drama. Would you consider yourself introvert or extrovert? I did read a book called Quiet, all about introversion and extroversion. I think I'm pretty close to the middle. I guess introvert in that I, recharge I always need my alone time, but at the same time, I can't go like 2 or 3 days without one or the other. If I'm by myself, then I really need to hang out with friends. If I'm friends with it, then I need time by myself.
Last one.
If you could trade lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why? I don't know. I'll go with Will Shortz because I'm really into crosswords. So I'd be interested in seeing exactly what goes down when they get these submissions and how they choose and edit them.
So lastly, I'd like to ask you, what would be your biggest piece of advice which you would give to middle and high school girls who are interested in pursuing a career in computer science, or maybe don't know what they want to do yet?
I'd tell girls just pursue whatever you're interested in. Don't worry if it feels like everyone else is ahead of you or knows more than you. You can go at your own pace, and you don't know where your interests are going to lead you. Maybe you're interested in one thing and then you want to make a website about that thing, and then because of that you've learned something about coding. You don't have to do any sort of prescribed road.
Wow, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and all of your advice. I really appreciate you coming out here today, and I can't wait to share your story with so many girls.
It was great to talk to you.
Thank you.